Imagine you are standing in a park on a sunny afternoon. You pick up a tennis ball to throw to your dog. It is a simple, completely thoughtless action. You step forward, you pull your arm back, and you let the ball fly. It sails straight and fast, landing exactly where you wanted it to go. Your dog chases it down, and you do not think anything of it. Now, imagine taking a fully grown chimpanzee, an animal with muscles far denser and stronger than yours, and asking it to do the same thing. The chimpanzee might toss the ball, but the throw would be clumsy. It would be incredibly slow, and it would completely miss the target. Even with all of their incredible raw strength, a chimpanzee can barely throw an object at 20 miles per hour. Yet a human baseball pitcher can throw a ball over 90 miles per hour with pinpoint accuracy. Even an average person with no athletic training can throw hard and fast. So why are humans the only species on Earth that can throw accurately at high speeds? This question matters a lot more than you might think. Throwing is not just a game, it is the secret weapon that shaped our entire evolutionary history. If you look at human beings compared to the rest of the animal kingdom, we really do not make sense as apex predators. We are not the fastest runners. We do not have thick hides or sharp claws. Our teeth are small and our jaws are relatively weak. If an early human were to fight a wild predator hand to hand, the human would lose every single time. But we have a biological superpower built right into our skeletons. The ability to throw heavy objects fast and accurately is completely unique to us. A young human child can outthrow a fully grown silverback gorilla. This ability is the reason our ancestors survived against animals that were bigger, faster, and stronger than they were. To understand how we do this, we have to look at the massive physical challenges of throwing. The first challenge is generating enough speed. Muscle alone cannot move an arm fast enough to create high-speed projectile motion. So, how do human bodies solve this? We use our bodies exactly like a slingshot. When you pull your arm back to throw, you are not just flexing your muscles, you are actually stretching out the tendons and ligaments in your shoulder and chest. These elastic tissues store up incredible amounts of energy, just like pulling back the rubber band on a slingshot. When your arm finally snaps forward, all of that stored elastic energy is released at once. Your arm whips forward much faster than muscle power alone could ever move it. Researchers studying biomechanics have found that this elastic storage is the main engine behind the human throw. But to make this biological slingshot work, our bodies had to change drastically over millions of years. This brings us to the second challenge, which is the anatomy of the twist. Long ago, our very distant ancestors lived mostly in trees. Their shoulders were built for reaching up, climbing, and swinging from branches. Their shoulder blades faced upward, and their waists were short and stiff to support their core while climbing. Over time, as early humans moved out of the forests and onto the open grassy plains, their bodies adapted to a new way of life on the ground. Three major anatomical changes happened. First, the human waist became taller and much more flexible. This allowed the upper half of the body to rotate completely independently from the hips. Second, our shoulders dropped lower and shifted to face outward rather than upward. And third, the bone in our upper arm slowly twisted over countless generations. This unique twist allows our arm to rotate incredibly far backward when we raise it up. If you hold your arm up in a throwing position and let your hand drop backward, you can feel this extreme rotation. This is the exact movement that stretches those shoulder ligaments to the absolute limit. Without these three changes, the slingshot effect simply would not work. The third challenge of throwing is not physical at all. It is a massive mathematical problem that your brain has to solve in a fraction of a second. Throwing an object and hitting a target requires immense neurological calculation. Your brain has to calculate the distance to the target, it has to estimate the weight of the object in your hand, it has to adjust for wind and gravity, And most importantly, it has to calculate the exact millisecond to let go of the object. When your arm is whipping forward at high speed, the window of time for a perfect release is incredibly small. If you let go just 1 millisecond too early, the rock will fly high into the air. If you let go just 1 millisecond too late, the rock will smash into the ground at your feet. Yet human beings do this calculation naturally. Anthropologists believe that learning to throw actually helped develop the human brain. It forced the brain to build new neural pathways. The brain had to learn how to perfectly coordinate the eyes, the torso, the arm, and the fingers all in one fluid motion. Some scientists even suggest that the mental processing required for throwing helped lay the groundwork for language. Both throwing and speaking require the brain to plan out a rapid sequence of highly coordinated physical movements. By solving the physics of throwing, our brains became better at solving complex problems in general. The fourth challenge was survival. 2 million years ago, early humans faced a brutal reality on the open plains. They needed a diet rich in calories and fat to fuel their rapidly growing brains. This meant they needed to eat meat. But hunting large animals or scavenging from fresh kills was a deadly game. Getting close to a large prey animal with hooves or horns was highly dangerous. Trying to steal a meal from a giant hyena or a saber-toothed cat was practically a death sentence. The solution they found was distance. By picking up heavy, smooth rocks and sharpened wooden sticks, early humans could hunt without getting close enough to be killed. They could strike from afar. Furthermore, a group of early humans standing together and throwing rocks at high speeds could scare off almost any predator on Earth. They did not need sharp teeth, they just needed the perfect throw. Imagine a typical day on the African savanna nearly 2 million years ago. The sun is beating down heavily on the tall, dry grass. A small group of early humans is moving quietly across the landscape. They are hungry, and they have spotted a large grazing animal in the distance. They do not run at it with their bare hands, and they do not charge wildly. Instead, they fan out. They slowly and silently surround the animal in a wide circle. Each hunter stops to scan the ground, picking up heavy rounded river stones that fit perfectly in the palms of their hands. They communicate with subtle eye contact and silent gestures, making sure everyone is in position. The animal raises its head, sensing danger. On a hidden signal, the hunters all step forward at exactly the same time. The motion starts in their feet. They plant their lead foot into the dirt. Their hips rotate forward violently. Their tall, flexible waists twist, leaving their shoulders behind for just a split second. Then, their shoulders snap forward. Their arms whip through the air, stretching their tendons like rubber bands. They release the stones in perfect unison. The rocks fly through the air at terrifying speeds, striking the animal all at once from different directions. The combined impact takes the prey down instantly. There is no close combat. There is no wrestling with sharp horns. They survive another day because they mastered the physics of distance. For a very long time, the biological throwing arm was the greatest piece of technology on Earth. It was our primary tool for hunting and our primary tool for defense. But eventually, human history reached a massive turning point. Our brains, which had grown large and complex partly from the mechanics of throwing, figured out how to build external tools that threw things for us. The first major shift was the invention of the atlatl, which is also known as a spear thrower. It was a simple stick with a hook on the end, but it changed everything. The atl acted as an artificial extension of the human arm. It literally added another joint to the kinetic chain. This allowed early humans to throw spears much further and with devastating force. Then came an even bigger leap, the invention of the bow and arrow. The bow completely removed the need for the human shoulder to act as a slingshot. Instead, the elastic energy was stored in the wood of the bow and the tension of the string. A human only had to pull the string back, Hold it steady and let go. The bow could shoot faster, further, and deadlier than any human arm ever could. Eventually, centuries later, the invention of gunpowder completely replaced physical throwing in hunting and warfare. A simple trigger pull could send a metal projectile faster than the speed of sound. The biological slingshot inside our shoulders was no longer strictly necessary for our survival. We had successfully outsourced our greatest biological superpower to the tools we built with our hands. Today, you do not need to throw heavy stones to survive. You do not need to form a circle in the tall grass to hunt your dinner, and you do not need to defend your food from wild predators on an open plain. The ancient, complex mechanics of your shoulder are now mostly used for leisure. We use this evolutionary gift to pitch baseballs, to shoot basketballs, or to skip small rocks across a quiet pond. But every single time you step forward, pull your arm back, and let an object fly through the air, you are waking up a 2 million-year-old survival mechanism. You are doing the exact thing that kept your ancestors alive, and you are doing the one thing that no other animal on this planet can do.